Hello, everyone. Thank you so much for coming to Shadow of the Tomb Raider, Uncovering the Hidden City of Paititi panel here at PAX West. I'm Andrea Rene. You might know me from What's Good Games or from Kind of Funny Games Daily. I also had the pleasure of working with Square Enix and the Crystal Dynamics team at San Diego Comic-Con this year. I'm joined on stage by, to my left here, Danielle Chayer-Bisson, the game director. We have Mario Chabtini, the senior producer, and Rich Briggs, the senior brand director. So I'm assuming we're all here, whether you're in person here at PAX West or joining us on the stream on Twitch, because we all love Tomb Raider and Lara Croft in this franchise that has been with us for so many years now. We're super excited. Obviously, the game launch feels like it's so close. Dan, can you feel it?
A lot, yes. We just finished a game. Now it's done. And vacation soon for me, for sure. Woohoo, vacation!
You guys have all been working so hard for so long on this game, and I think I speak for a lot of us in saying that we're like really excited to finally be able to try it out for ourselves. But today, we have a couple different pieces of gameplay that we're going to show you. We're obviously going to show you Paititi, the name of the panel. We're going to show you a challenge tomb and some other cool stuff. So, Rich, before we get into that, I would love to talk a little bit about, or maybe, I mean, you speak way better than I do about it, just about like what people can expect from the gameplay we're going to see today.
Well, we're really going to focus on a couple different pillars. Shadow of the Tomb Raider is really meant to be Lara Croft's defining moment. And one of the things that comes along with that is she is the most capable, the most calculating she's ever been. And in order for us to still provide a challenge for her and for you, the players, it means we have to dial everything else up to 11. So the tombs have got to be more difficult, the exploration, the traversal, all these things have to push back on Lara like never before. So we're going to give you a glimpse into what we mean when we say terrifying tombs and treacherous traversal and deadly puzzles.
I had a really great time at a recent preview event getting to talk with Dan and the lead writer Jill about like what does that actually mean, though, and really kind of delving into what Lara at the height of her powers means. So, Dan, from your perspective, for players that have been along on this reboot for this entire trilogy, like what does that mean? Like, where is Lara at, in comparison from a gameplay perspective in the first two games to where we're going to see her today?
I think one interesting thing is that when you're looking at 2013, Tomb Raider 2013, I will advise to do that if you can. Just put into this there. Look into the first hour of the game. What you're going to see, is just going to see a young woman out of college, insecure, not knowing what she's capable of. Not knowing she's vulnerable, not just not vulnerable in terms of physical vulnerability, but also in her emotionally. And take out the disc. Take Shadow of the Tomb Raider and put in there and look at the first hour, and you completely will understand how different she is. She's overconfident. She's powerful. She's super smart. She thinks she can do everything by herself. Like if you were looking at 2013, she thought that somebody would save her, and then realized throughout the game that she can only save herself and saving others at the same time. In this case, she can do things by herself, and also because of that, she will cause a mistake, and you're going to see how human she is, even though she thinks she's extremely powerful, and that these mistakes, these consequences of your action will have a deeper impact inside of her, because you're going to see that even though physically she's prepared, you're looking at her, you're looking at the new model that we did, in terms of the physicality, she's way more toned. When you're looking at her, you know that she's physically prepared to take down Trinity, to take down any challenge in front of her, to get her to her goal. But emotionally, she's not that prepared. So when she meets for the first time the bad guy, Dr. Dominguez, she definitely see a difference between him and her, that he has maturity, he has experience that she doesn't have yet. And that, set up the tone for the entire game, where the things she needs to know, she needs to grow, she needs to mature, she needs to understand what her place in the world is, and that is the goal for her, to really grow to become the Tomb Raider, because that's what it means. It's not how you look like, it's not how strong or smart you are, it's how you are in terms of how you perceive the world. And if you want to save or protect or do whatever you have to do with it, you have to understand and care for it, and that is more important than just winning and doing the extraordinary.
One of the things that I liked about Lara's growth over the franchise is that each game, we tried to make sure that there was one theme that anyone could identify with. So if you look at Tomb Raider 2013, it was that if your back is against the wall, you're going to do what you have to do to survive. So that was Lara Croft realizing that she had what it takes to be a survivor. And then we moved on to Rise of the Tomb Raider, and Lara pushed herself to go further. And so that idea of becoming more than what you are, of being the best version of yourself that you can be, Lara felt like she was the only one who could take the fight to Trinity. She had the unique set of skills and will to put herself in those harsh environments and survive. And then, for Shadow of the Tomb Raider, as Dan was saying, it's Lara at the height of her powers, but I also think it's her most difficult battle. And so it's much more of an inner conflict. And the theme there is about overcoming your own inner demons, about not becoming the evil that you're fighting. And that's what's going to actually make Lara into the Tomb Raider she's meant to be.
We had a really kind of fun conversation with Mario and Dan when we were preparing for this panel about one of my favorite things that we discussed at Comic-Con was how you guys really put an emphasis on being able to choose your difficulty, because obviously with her being at the height of her powers means that combat, traversal, exploration, all of that's going to be more difficult for the player. And if you watch What's Good Games, we have a shirt called Baby Ass Baby Mode. I like playing everything on easy. And so when I found out that you guys would let me kind of choose my slider difficulty where I could ratchet up combat if I want to, but take down maybe the puzzles if they were too difficult for me, I thought that was really cool. But Mario, you told me that originally you didn't want that in the game?
Yeah, I was the one. As a producer, we were discussing about it. We were close to the last quarter of the production time, and I was telling Dan, yeah, that's cool, but hey, you know what? We need to cut that. Because when we think about it, we have 3 pillars in the game, and we have 3 sliders of difficulties for each pillar. So that means you need to rebalance the game at the end 9 times. So I was like, whoa. But in the end,
doing the math in his head about how many dollars that would cost.
Exactly.
But I think it's a great thing because, we joke about, oh, Mario wanted to cut it, but I think it actually speaks to the fact that your job is to make sure that we don't put anything out that isn't ultimately high quality.
Exactly.
And it wasn't because Mario was sitting there saying, oh, let's cut it because fans want it, and I don't like the fans to be happy. And that's how he talks, too, when he tries to cut things. It's really weird. I don't know why his voice changes. But the fact was, he was saying, if we can't put out something that is unbelievably high quality, then it's not worth us doing it. So I think the testament is the pursuit of high quality, but then the fact that we were going to say, you know what? It's important. It was one of the most requested fan features because, you guys are out there. You've wanted to go and get lost in Lara's world. You've said, can we please take the white markings off? I don't know how you play that way. It means you don't know what you can hang on to. You don't know what you can climb. But it's there for you. And so we said it was worth putting in the extra investment and resources to make it happen.
And we saw it in play tests when we were testing the game. The minute we added those 3-pillar difficulties, the ratings went higher because people were able to customize their own experience with the game.
And the funny thing, I've been working on the franchise for 8 years now. I was at Crystal for Tomb Raider 2013, and on Rise. So the thing we realized at a certain point is that people love tombs. That's why they're playing Tomb Raider. Otherwise, why would you play that? They all love tombs. People have a tendency, and myself included, very early, we have a tendency to think that people that love tombs also love puzzles, and that's not true. People love to go into tombs, but when they see a complicated puzzle, they're like, oh my God, no way, I'm not going to do that.
That's me.
So that was funny because that's why we always had to make it easier, things like that, because people were saying where I would be dropping the controller and say, I don't want to play. It's in these tombs.
Not everybody, just to be clear.
Not everybody. The people actually said, that the puzzle, I'm talking about people who are puzzled, not everybody. So puzzles are... So that was funny because now everyone can enjoy these tombs because the fantasy of going to a place that no one ever found, something unique, and discovering it is still rewarding by itself. But also those who are crazy about puzzle, they can crank it up. And Lara says nothing. There's no instinct mode glowing. There's nothing. It's you and the puzzle. And for those like, oh my God, I'll go on GameFAQs or whatever, they can bring it down easy. And then we're going to be, of course, it's still a little bit of challenge. Otherwise, it's just like, it's just a walkthrough thing. But we're actually helping you each step to do that. It's the same thing with exploration. You're playing Tomb Raider because you love exploration. And there's some people, some people hate the white paint. We even have a community group, the group that wants the white paint off. So we had a group like that, and there's some people, they want the exploration and just want to experience the exploration as the game was designed initially, because we never start designing the world with white paint. We added afterward when people are stuck. But doing that, people got a lot more from the exploration and feeling that they're actually there, instead of just finding, looking for the white paint. And who puts the white paint anyway? I don't know. I'm still looking for that. Maybe there's leprechaun during the night doing that.
What's the narrative justification for this white paint? I just want to see, because I'm curious, from a show of hands, who's planning on playing with all the difficulty sliders to the hardest setting? Who are the hardcores out there?
Well done.
Much respect to you guys. You tell me how it is, okay? Because I'm not going to do it. I do want to start the first piece of gameplay that we have, which is a walkthrough of this hidden city of Paititi that we want to talk about. So this is a giant open area that is bigger than what we've seen previously in the franchise. What was kind of the inspiration to want to make an area, like a social hub like this in a game that never traditionally had that?
The Paititi was actually the first pitch of that it was 3.5 years ago, when we start talking about what would be the next game going. And one of the first pitch we did was, what if Lara would think that she will find something very, very special, one of the unique tomb ever, and she's used to see dead people, she's used to see that it's a tomb. It's called a tomb for a reason. What if she goes there and she finds that this place, people are still alive and they are not they were never touched by modern civilization? What would she do and what would she say? And that's where people will say, wow, that could be very unique.
The thing I really like about having Paititi, and number one, as you mentioned, it's the largest hub that we've ever built in a Tomb Raider game. So for anyone who is looking to 100% the game, this is where you're going to have your work cut out for you, because it is filled with side quests, collectibles, narrative, and of course challenge tombs. So this is just dozens of hours of play here. But the thing that I really love about this is it sort of is a perfect encapsulation of what the world in Tomb Raider is meant to be. The world is always meant to be a character. In some ways, it's an enemy, because the world has secrets, and it is protecting them. And Lara is able to go into the hidden pockets of the world where these secrets are held, and survive in them, and overcome the natural predators and environmental hazards, and she's able to find those secrets. That's what makes her special, or part of what makes her so special. And the jungle, as Dan was talking about, is one of the deadliest places in the world, and it is the protection for the hidden city of Paititi. So this is the big tomb, this is the big reward for being able to make it through the jungle. You then find the lost city of Paititi.
Later on you'll see what the protector is, what's the guardian of Paititi. One interesting part also for Paititi is that in the previous games, Lara, didn't get to talk to a lot of people. It was always she isolated. She was doing all these things by herself. She had some couple interaction with some characters like Jonah, for example, but it was really never that that deep. We had the remnant on Rise, which she interact with. In this case here, we are touching a point where Lara, she's not very comfortable. Normally, Lara, she's very comfortable when you talk with her about archaeology. She's geeking out, she's comfortable. But if you ask her, what did you do last weekend, Lara? She will be like, she doesn't have.
She can't small talk.
Exactly.
She was probably raiding a tomb, in all honesty.
Yeah.
Exactly, probably that. So it was very interesting from a team perspective where, we were saying that, what if Lara would talk with people around a table? She'd go to a cafe and sit down and chill. What would she say? And then we didn't know. We were thinking about that, and that's where we said probably she doesn't even know herself. So her relationship, even during side mission, things like that, she's very awkward. She's not, you know, she's not super like comfortable because she spends all the time with dead people. And dead people are not very social.
Jonah's
you know?
not dead.
Yeah. So I know because I'm spending a lot of people, dead people too, because I spent 8 years with Lara, so I've seen a lot of dead people.
Well, and Dan, I know that we also have the immersion mode. Mario, you know, this is one of the things I think actually, speaking to Dan's point about it being somewhat awkward for Lara, that could actually make it awkward for the player, but on purpose, right?
Yeah. When we say big, we even have around 19,000 facial animation for conversation. Everything you see in a Paititi right now, all the possibilities of conversation with people around the town, it goes up to 19,000, so it's very, very big.
And for the immersion modes, like if you want to play, because that's adding to the numbers, you know, the way they move, the facial and things, but if you really want to go with the initial vision, because the initial vision was bringing you to a place we've never seen before, a what-if place. What if the Maya and the Aztec, Inca would all merging together at a certain point, even though they never did. But it's a what-if place. We need to create something very unique and very, you know, how these cultures will coexist for 400 years without, you know, without connecting with the exterior world. And we add an immersion mode in the menu where if you don't want to hear them speaking English, you know, with the chatter around, you want to hear them in the native language, you can do it. You can put the immersion mode and you can immerse yourself in that world completely.
Right. And so right now, one of the things I did want to call out, because this is one of the best parts, in my opinion, the challenge tombs that are off the main Paititi hub. So you can see here just a couple of the different spaces that you're going to be exploring. And, you know, this is where, when we talk about terrifying tombs, this is what we mean. The idea that this was a place that, and a culture that celebrated death and worshiped fear. And, you know, there are those three main components to the tomb, and the challenge tomb included. The first was that it was just difficult to get to. So you see that Lara right now has to do a significant amount of traversal just to find the entrance to the challenge tomb. The second was, once you actually found it, it looked like it was a foreboding place. It was warning you to not come in here. But then, of course, Lara being Lara is going to push forward. And then the third thing was that it's deadly inside. Everything is trying to kill you. And we'll show you that a little bit more when we get to the Warrior's Trial later in the panel.
One thing that was important in Paititi for the biggest hub we ever created, it was on the tech side to be able to have at all time at least 50% on time on screen. So this is one thing that we did to make sure that we can bring life, as Paititi is kind of a celebration of life.
Mm-hmm. When you add Paititi and all the side missions and show social and Crypts and challenge tomb, people were saying it's impossible. We cannot do that. You know, it's impossible. And one of the things we worked a lot on, and maybe Mario can expand on it, but we worked hard to try to make the impossible possible. Yeah. And there's a lot of challenge tomb and Crypts and side mission communicating with, you know, the people there. And it's massive. It's the biggest, like we were saying, it's about 3 times the size of the biggest hub we had on Rise. And we can go underwater, we can go up by using some of the, what we call the overhang, like it's more a vertical way to climb. And, you know, all that is just there for you to explore and discover.
Yeah, and you mentioned the Crypts. So in Rise of the Tomb Raider, if you remember, the Crypts were just relatively small areas. They had a sort of like a maze-like path that you had to solve, and then you'd have a reward on the inside. Well, now in Shadow of the Tomb Raider, the Crypts are as large as the challenge tombs were in Rise of the Tomb Raider, and many of the challenge tombs in Shadow of the Tomb Raider are as big as the main tombs were in Rise of the Tomb Raider. So they're not just terrifying, they're larger, there's more of them. So this really is, you know, Lara coming to the height of her skills, not just in the combat, not just in the narrative, but in her tomb raiding skills. And then you can see there the new tactics that we were talking about, like the rappelling, the swing, the wall run. All these things are necessary in order to move about the environment.
Yeah, and the rappel down, as you saw just before, is a new mechanic that allows us to expand on the exploration of the world. So now you have new way to get down, to get into some places, to get rewards.
And this is the entrance to the Warrior's Trial. You can see these spinning obelisk blades that Lara has to make her way through. Again, a lot of traversal challenges. The idea that once you get inside the tomb, not just the traps, but even just its inner workings, the puzzle elements, those are all trying to kill you.
Yeah, I died a lot when I play, like a lot.
You know we have these difficulty sliders, actually.
Oh, you know, I did hear about those.
Yeah, but she was playing easy and she died a lot. So.
No, it's true, I was. I think I just got to a point where maybe I was like Lara. I was maybe a little too cocky, and I was like, I can do this, just run through, and I just always fell off the ledges. That was like the cause of most of my deaths, so be careful, those ledges will sneak up on you.
The thing about using the rappel and things like that, it makes the traversal more challenging than before. Before that, you were actually, following some things you were seeing that you could actually, we call them the grappling axe, visual language. You could actually follow that. In this case now, because there's a rappel, because you can wall run, because you can balance, it add a lot more challenge to all the traversal.
One thing...
it does look dangerous, you are right.
So the one thing is interesting about this tomb, which they cut up right there, but it's actually pretty cool when you continue. There's one guy in our team. He's a hybrid between a designer and an artist, and what he does is that he has the task to create them first and foremost physically. Before it gets into the game, he makes them with Lego techniques and also some wood things and glue, and it's just popsicle stick and stuff like that, and he built them.
This is like a craft project that he's working on.
Bubble gum. What else, Dan?
Yeah, bubble gum.
Tin foil, Q-tips.
Spin on it and everything. But no, the idea is that he's building them so we have them as ground as possible. And he does this extensive research on technology that they were using before. Like, for example, the Mayan, what technology they had accessible for them. And he made sure that they could have done something like that. Of course, we're stretching reality. They never built that. We never went to a place that you see this thing coming out of the floor. It would be cool, though, but yes.
Yeah, you don't know that, Dan.
I would not survive it for sure, man.
It may have happened. We don't know, Dan.
I would have a heart attack just seeing it from coming up from the ground. But the idea is that he builds and made sure that it's all grounded with the technology. So that's why when you get into these tombs, even though they're more apparatus than before, they feel so real.
Let's take a look at our next piece of gameplay. This is the Warrior's Trial Challenge Tomb.
Yes, so this is, you're going to see a little bit of a repeat of what we just showed. That was a sort of a condensed version of it, but this is the deeper playthrough that Dan was talking about. But one of the things I love about this is the fact that it's located underwater. So Shadow of the Tomb Raider has full 360-degree movement. In Rise of the Tomb Raider, you kind of paddled around the surface, and fans said, bring back swimming. We want to go underwater. That's a hallmark of the franchise. And we said, all right. Be careful what you wish for, because we're going to give you underwater survival. You've got moray eels, you've got piranhas, you have to manage your oxygen. It's all very fast-paced. It's not meant to be a clunky, slow exploration. But the idea is that Lara is going into these unfamiliar territories. You have to make your way through very, very narrow crevasses, like down dark tunnels. You don't know what's waiting for you. You don't know if there's a treasure there, a challenge tomb, or you're just going to run out of oxygen. So we add that element of exploration. And in this case, if you have upgraded Lara's breath enough, she can make it all the way to this challenge tomb. Without that skill upgrade, you'd never be able to hold your breath long enough to find this challenge tomb.
And she's got a sweet outfit, too.
That's funny enough, because for the underwater thing is that because people were not used to do that when they start playing Shadow of the Tomb Raider, so they went underwater and there were signs of challenge tomb, but they were all turning back because they were afraid of missing, some oxygen. So it was a very interesting dynamic, and seeing that was, for us, was like, yes, we got it. People are afraid.
Also,
yeah.
we can't talk about a shadow without the lighting aspect. And for us, building Shadow of the Tomb Raider, we said, okay, we need to invest in our lighting technology. So we pushed a lot to make sure that we can bring the most immersive environment as possible. So you can see how lighting is something that talks through the screen, and also underwater, there's like everything is handcrafted to make sure that we have a very, very immersive environment.
Yeah, and Andrea, you mentioned the outfit, that you like that. One of the things that is really actually quite important about this is that it is showing the culture of Paititi accepting Lara. Because at first, much like the jungle, Paititi is pushing back against Lara. They don't recognize her as someone coming to try and help. They recognize her as a threat from the outside world. And eventually, through her actions and through her friendships with people and interacting with them in a meaningful, positive way, they begin to trust her and welcome her into the culture and give her, the garb that sort of allows her to move freely throughout there. And I think that that's sort of like an example of how we treat the world in general. Paititi eventually will accept you if you're doing the right things and it recognizes you're trying to help. The jungle, when you first start, is a very dark and foreboding place. And then as you progress and as Lara becomes one with the jungle, as we say, it actually opens up. It becomes lighter because it is a symbol of the world saying, all right, Lara is fitting into it. It is becoming one with the jungle. Of course, that gives you a lot of great combat advantages, but it's also a measure of that respect that the world is kind of giving Lara.
And from a narrative standpoint, also, what's important about Paititi is that it's also a pivotal point for her as she's growing into her role. And this is a pivotal point. Her relationship with that city will actually change her, and you'll feel that as you're going to play the game, that there's emotional evolution for her when she goes there, because she's seeing how these people are living. They see how they're accepting her, because the dress that she wears right now, it's an Incan dress. It's part of the rebel group. She's a part of the rebel group helping against the cult of Kukulkan, of course. We like to do a joke about that because there's one of the video, the merchant is saying that. It's funny for us because we've been hearing it 10,000 times. But that's what it is exactly. So she's going against this cult, this tyrannical cult, and they helping each other. And that's what the thing about that is, that her relationship with this rebel, with these people, actually is transforming her and helps her from when you play the game the first hour, and then you're going there and you finish, playing that part, especially the part that you're seeing, and later on you see that she's actually growing emotionally, and that's very rewarding for those who really care and love Lara. You see that, you see more a human side of her evolving. It's very rewarding.
Yes, and one of the things at the end of that video, that was what Dan was talking about earlier, about it starting to get really interesting. You notice that as Lara was interacting with the elements of the puzzle, they would then turn on, but they are covered in blades. And so the same mechanisms that are lowering and solving the puzzle for Lara are also going to kill you if you come into contact with them.
So
again,
I die if I solve the puzzle? Is that what you're saying?
Well, it's as you're solving the puzzle, it becomes much easier for you to die. And that, again, is the idea of the world has to push back harder than before. Lara is more accomplished. She is a brilliant archaeologist. And it's almost like the secrets of the world are a reward with the appropriate challenge that comes with it. So for Lara to discover the skill that is at the heart of that challenge tomb, for her to be able to harness that new power that she can use in gameplay, the world is saying you're going to have to earn it.
How high is the difficulty ramp for these challenge tombs? Because I felt like the ones that I saw were really hard, but clearly I didn't see the stuff at endgame for obvious reasons. You don't want to spoil anything. Does it mean it gets really hard?
The Warrior's Trial is actually normal difficulty, so if you found that it was hard, they are harder than that.
Well,
yeah, but that's also why they're optional, right? That's also why we make the challenge tombs optional, because we know that some people, not all of the tombs are optional. Some of them are along the main narrative path. It's also why we have the sliding difficulty, which I think is a great addition for people who maybe just want to make their way through with not as much of a puzzle challenge. But regardless of where you have the puzzle difficulty set, there are going to be those optional challenge tombs, and they are there for you to search through the world. If you find them and want to overcome them, that's entirely at your discretion. So the most difficult ones are not going to be the ones that you have to complete in order to complete the story.
And also, when you put the puzzle easy, not only will help you for each step, but also slowing down the timing of things. So if there's a deadly pendulum, it's not going to go like on easy, it's going to be slowing down. But I would like to see people playing it hard. I saw some playtest people hard with doing puzzles like that. They have to run, and that's funny for us
well,
when we're
there's
watching.
clearly a lot of people in this room that are very excited about death. I did want to ask. Obviously, as gamers, part of the thrill of accomplishing something is like the pride of knowing, like, yeah, I did it, I beat it, I accomplished it, and that's what we all really love about playing games. What are some of the rewards outside of just that rush that players are going to get in the game for completing some of these challenge tombs?
Some of the challenge tomb, of course, we made sure that there's a balancing between the risk versus reward. The more you take risk, the more the more you tackle harder thing, the more the reward will be good. The challenge tomb, I cannot explain exactly. Not explain, but I cannot say exactly what would be the reward, because some of them could be skills, some of them could be objects or things like that. But the most, I would say, the crypts, which is very new. People love the crypts because it's a whole new experience. For those who love the dress of Lara, there's a lot more outfit you can get, and you can mix and match them now. You have different bottom and tops, and a lot of them, and you get them into our crypts, for example. A lot of crypts are giving them, so if you want to have a lot of outfit, look for crypts because they're super exciting.
And I have to take a second before we get to the third piece of gameplay to give you guys props. They have some skins in the game for Tomb Raider fans that have been with the franchise a long time that are so well done that I had to stop and just stare at them and be like, how did you pull this off? You guys, the skins in this game are on point.
One thing very important for us was also with those outfits that you can build your own Lara and customize your own experience. So having these outfits will bring you some opportunity to play the game in a different way.
Mm-hmm. But if you're playing the game with the classical Lara, the more polygonal Lara, that's actually pretty funny. Looking at that, doing cinematics and stuff, so we cannot show it, but I was laughing. I had some very nostalgia aspect when I saw her balancing herself like that. I was like, wow, that looks like, but it's so funny. For sure, you're not going to cry during the sad moments. You're going to be probably laughing with that, but, Spirit Jonah's like, it's not only about you. And then she's like, oh, and then she looks like the classical girl. So that's pretty funny.
He's not wrong. On that note, let's take a look at the last piece of gameplay we're going to show you. And this is the Trial of the Eagle. So, Dan, what is this? What is the Trial of the Eagle?
The Trial of the Eagle, actually, it is the gate to get to Paititi. This is one of the ideas that people from the community had say, hey, a lot of these cool tombs actually are challenge tombs, and we would like to have tombs that are much more complex on the main path. And because we had the adaptive difficulty in mind, we knew that we could do that. So actually, this tomb is on the main path, and it's protecting Paititi. It is hard, but it is cool. And it's epic because it's one of the few, when you look at it, it's one of the few tombs that we have that are open air. And it's the Trial of the Eagle. So there's multiple trials that Lara had to go through, reach Paititi. That's why it's not touched by modernity. It's protecting it. There's a trial of the jaguar, trial of the spider, and this is the Trial of the Eagle.
Oh, you guys put spiders in the game? Why?
Well, and you know what? I think that one of the things that is most special about this is one of my favorite spots because it combines several pillars that are so important to the franchise. So if you look at what we're showing here, it's, yes, a tomb, but it also heavily focuses on traversal, heavily focuses on puzzle solving, interacting with the environment, as well as there are some traps in here. If you're not careful, some of the elements that you turn on can actually kill you. And I will say, if you don't want a spoiler, anytime you see Lara take out her bow, close your eyes, and then just keep it closed for about a 10 count, and then you can open it back up. We won't think you're scared because there's nothing scary in this tomb, but if you want to solve it by yourself, the bow is going to give you some spoilers if you watch.
Yeah, one thing about failing in trial. This is a good example because in the first place, that map was built by a team we're working with, a great team we're working with. And at some point, we were trying to get a very good puzzle. We couldn't do it, so how many times we throw that in the garbage, redo it, and at one point we said, okay, let's bring one of the challenge to put it on one of the puzzle and put it right on the path, and it became one benchmark for all of the other puzzle we made for the game.
So I can say the first version of the puzzle was pretty lame. To be honest, it was pretty lame. Video games is very hard, and you test a lot of things. And like Mario was saying, it was a team that was building one of the benchmark, what would be like a challenge tomb things, and we were like, wow, man, let's get that and put it there, and it felt right at home with the wind and eagle, so it actually felt right at home, and now people actually love that because it's a great gate.
I love that you indirectly insulted the first guy that worked on this. You're like, it's pretty lame. There's one person right now crying watching this stream, so good job, Dan. I think that this is also a great example.
Lame stuff all the time.
Yeah, I think this is also a great example of if you turned off the white markings, just imagine trying to navigate this space without knowing what you could interact with. That to me is where all you guys who said, I think it's like turn off white paint is the group that Dan was talking about earlier. Everyone in that group, this is where you're going to say, maybe just here we turn it on.
Just for this one tomb, and then I'll turn it back off, I promise.
Exactly.
No, always leave it on. Just leave it on.
Yes, but this is one of my favorite spaces just because it shows Lara doing what Lara does best, being a brilliant archaeologist. And it's, there's no combat in here, so you can just take your time. You can figure out how does the world work. We always try and make sure that we have very physics-based puzzles, making the world interact and react in a very believable manner. To Dan's earlier point, making it feel like, the civilization could actually build this using the technology and the means that they had at their disposal. So this, for me, is just such a great example of what makes Shadow of the Tomb Raider special, because you've got an open-air tomb, you've got all this puzzle solving, you've got the culture clearly, shining through here. So I just love this.
Got to find another way out.
Whoever did this demo makes it look so easy. It was not this easy when I tried it.
Believe it or not, when we are making these captures, so I will say a little insider info for you guys, because you were kind enough to join the panel. We probably go through about 20 to 25 captures before we will actually put it up on screen, because we will sit there and to do a run through like this where you don't mess up, like, oh, that was so perfect, except Lara's leg just clipped through that rock right there. Sorry. Go back and re-record this 20-minute segment.
Oh, no.
And then we make somebody else cry. That's how I make people cry. Dan makes them cry by saying, your work was crap.
But most of the things I say it's crap, it's because I directed it too. It's like the tomb before this one, I directed it, and it was crap. But
that was you in the mirror talking to yourself. Yeah. Your work is crap. You make that puzzle not lame.
No, the real challenge to build puzzle like that, and the reason why we throw most of them in the garbage until we find the right one, is we need to find the right balance between being frustrating and being okay, where the player will find the aha moment, we call it, where he's going to understand, okay, now I know how to solve the puzzle. So that's why we do a lot of iteration.
Mm-hmm.
All right, well, this has been awesome, taking a nice deep dive into some gameplay that you guys will find in Shadow of the Tomb Raider. But we imagine that there's some of you out there that have some questions, so we're going to open it up to fan Q&A. We have a microphone located right here in the center, so all the folks watching on the stream can also hear your question. So if you'd like to go ahead and line up, if you have a question, please do so.
And while you guys are lining up, I will say that the one sort of pillar of the franchise that we didn't show today is combat. And this is also a way that Lara is challenged like never before. Because when we say becoming one with the jungle, it's because Trinity realizes that the Maya apocalypse is their tool to try and remake the world the way they want to. So they are bringing their A game. They are bringing their most powerful soldiers, the most advanced technology. Lara's outgunned and outnumbered like never before. So I'm sure if you've seen any other videos online, you see that becoming one with the jungle means Lara, you know, striking from the canopy and disappearing like a jaguar, you know, covering herself with mud to camouflage and then hiding up against a vine wall, or using fear in combat to make enemies wonder what's going on, freak out, or shoot them with a fear arrow that has, you know, a toxin on it that'll make them hallucinate and start to fire at each other. So not just in the traversal and in the swimming and in the tombs and in the narrative, but in the combat as well, Lara is absolutely at her most capable.
I can testify. I tried to do one perfect demo during the PAX event, and with the AI, the way they react, never the same thing, it was really challenging.
All right. That shirt's amazing. I was wearing that shirt yesterday in pink.
Thank you.
Props.
Thank you. So when I play through, I always make sure to get all the achievements. And so I was wondering if you'd be able to give any insight into the other modes. Like last game we had endurance, we had the score attack. Are there any like that coming back this game?
That's a great question. And what we like to do is see what our fans are playing, what they enjoy most, listen to our fan feedback. And so we have designed New Game Plus, and this really takes a lot of the feedback from our fans. So
you guys can clap for New Game Plus.
Yeah,
That's
it's
awesome.
loud.
You out there
Thank
doing
you,
it.
yes.
Yeah.
So we really focused a lot on that mode. So, you know, we have a blog about what goes into it, so you can take a look at that. We also have DLC coming out post-launch. Again, our fans have told us we want more narrative and more tombs. So that's what we'll deliver. So every month, for 7 months, you will get a new challenge tomb with a new skill, a new outfit, and a new weapon, and new side quests to do. So that's really how we expand the gameplay from the core.
Yeah.
We do the same thing with the New Game
Yeah.
Plus, by the way. We had new skills, and you know, if you choose a path, you have new skills, you have new outfits, you have new weapons, all that. It's all the New Game Plus, so you can enjoy it the way you want, and we provide even you more reward as you choose a New Game Plus.
And not only that, 5 of those 7 tombs you're going to get are in co-op now. So we will do the puzzle in co-op.
Yes.
Can't wait. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Hey, I think in a lot of really good games, a lot of people could argue that the water level is the worst part of the good game. How have you guys?
I see where you're going here.
Have you guys made it not suck or?
Well, I think that really comes down to making sure that the water levels in Shadow of the Tomb Raider don't feel like a standard water level. They are looked at through our survival action lens, which means that it is part exploration, it's part combat. You know, when you're looking at the moray eels and the piranhas, it is not knowing what's around the corner, managing your oxygen, making sure you're not spending too much time, because I think that's also one of the hallmarks of water levels that maybe go on too long and you start to get bored. So sometimes it's optional. You think, oh, maybe there's a challenge tomb down there. Sometimes you have to make your way through. So really for us, it's all about how would a survival action experience underwater play out, and that's what we try and deliver.
Just to add on my side,
You don't need
do
to add
not
to it.
suck.
You don't need to add to it.
Stop right
Is
You
it
don't
a
need to add to
hashtag
it.
get good?
That was the perfect answer, Dan. Really? Come on.
The underwater does not suck. That's the first thing I have to say, because they are.
I think that was
important
very
for us.
clear from my answer, right?
I'm not.
All right,
no.
guys. All right, guys. Let the guy go sit down.
Hi, longtime fan. Honestly, I've played too many of these games at this point. There's
No
so
such
many-
thing.
Yeah,
so
what do
many
you
Tomb
mean?
Raiders, you know, little download ones, and then you got the full releases and the new one reboots and stuff. I want to know more like, where does this fit into the story? Kind of like, where am I as Laura in this? I mean, I know that might be a simple question or a hard one, but
Well, it's a direct sequel to Rise of the Tomb Raider. It takes place
Okay.
a year afterwards, so this is the conclusion to Lara Croft's origin story. So yeah,
Okay.
so if you've played
Okay.
Tomb Raider 2013, you saw her go on her first adventure. Rise of the Tomb Raider was taking place a year after that, where Lara said, I'm going to take the fight to Trinity. And now we go another year where Lara is saying, I have to stop the Maya apocalypse, which she inadvertently caused.
Because it looks so, I guess, like throwbacky to the original style of play, whereas I almost feel like it feels like...
Well, we always try and pay respectful homage to what came before in the classic games. So again, how we realize underwater, how we realize, Lara's combat. But this is still part of the Origin trilogy.
Okay, cool. Thanks a lot. I really appreciate it.
You're welcome.
Thank you.
Hello.
Hi.
I understand that the core of the new game comes from the Maya apocalypse legend. How much of real-world archaeology and archaeologists gets influenced when creating these games and also these new stories?
A lot of it, it's fiction. Yeah, the thing you have to understand is it's fiction, and we are in the what-if fantasy. What if that would happen? But the goddess of Ixchel, Chakchel, these are the things that are based on what we know about the culture. We did a lot of research. We worked with an historian very early on about all these elements to make sure because we were respectful as possible, but more importantly, because we want to create something that was real, something that you felt like, that you were in that world, not just like a cartoony or a world that could not exist. It had to be a believable world. So a lot of research, tons of research has been made. We've been sending people to Peru, or myself, Cozumel, or things like that, to really explore. I did went to Cenote.
Oh yeah, you just had to go to Cozumel to do some research.
Yeah, he had
sounds
to
like a likely story.
He had to go for 3 months too. We're not sure why.
It was all included also.
That was his argument. He was like, Lara would fly first class. I have to know what that means.
But it was taking very seriously a lot of passion, because we're all passionate about the culture itself, the Latin American, all these things. That's why we wanted to see what would happen if we merge all that together and see what the outcome of that. So it was very important for us. Even the language, the Maya, we worked with linguistic for that. We even hired Mexican people, really making sure that it was as authentic and real as possible.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I guess one joke question is, are we ever going to get dual-wielding pistols anymore?
Oh, we knew this question was coming. Somebody had to ask it.
Well, I will say that we right now are focused on Shadow of the Tomb Raider's launch and telling that story and the DLC that comes after it, but we are always listening to our fans.
Sounds great. Thank you.
Good job, Rich.
Thanks for taking that bullet, Rich.
Hello. I was just wondering, are you enjoying working on sort of the beginning of a reboot franchise more, being the team that sort of started this reboot franchise, or are you having more fun sort of trying to pay homage to previous games and this newer sort of becoming to what the previous series was?
I think it's both, because I was there in 2013 and Rise and this one. I was privileged to be able to work on the three of them. But the closer we get to her destination, the more we are, we're always tapping about nostalgia elements and things. And one of the core elements we try to do here that was very important in terms of how we distribute the pillars. Now, because this is closer to Tomb Raider, this is the most Tomb Raider game you'll get in the new trilogy, because she's there now. She's going there. So we had, normally we had a bit more combat, or, in terms of previous games, in terms of the distribution of the pillars and traversal and puzzle, now they are equal valued. So, for example, if even for the skills, even whatever you want to do, like Mario was saying previously, you want to build your own Lara, you can do that. But for sure, we always try to find ways, like Rich was saying, to, to listen to the community, also about, paying homage and be respectful of the franchise as a whole, not just at the origin. And I feel privileged to have working at the beginning of her beginnings, and that feels special, because I was a big fan initially, and I'm not saying that because I worked on it because I wanted to be an archaeologist at the time, and I didn't realize it was just brushing dust and finding things. I thought it was crazy, and my frustration went into Tomb Raider, that's real archaeology. But it's all about that, and at the end, because this is the end of the trilogy. It's not the end of Tomb Raider, but it's the end of the origin story, and it leaves me in a certain way bittersweet, because at a certain point, this is an end of her life, a chapter of her life.
On my side, just to be honest, only working on a Tomb Raider game is such a privilege and an honor. So I feel very fortunate, you know, to work on Shadow of the Tomb Raider. Either if it's because of the past or closing that trilogy, to me it's a real privilege.
Awesome. Thank you, guys.
Thank you.
Hi.
Hi.
So I have to start before I ask my question by saying that I really loved Tomb Raider. I loved all of them, and it was just such a fun journey with Lara. But the fact that she's an archaeologist, has she ever acknowledged the fact that she's going into these ancient tombs and places that have been untouched by humans and destroying parts of it to kind of get to that?
I saw a lot of fire in that one tomb.
There is absolutely. Now, obviously, much like any part, we have to take certain liberties in order for it to be. To Dan's point, it would not probably be a very interesting game if Lara just walked in and everything was fine. So, so we do have to make sure that there is a level of threat, that we have what we call cinematic survival action, that you have these blockbuster moments, and a lot of times that does mean that the world is collapsing around you and you have to make your way out. So yes, there is a certain, you know, disconnect of Lara's going into these ancient spaces, and Tombs and Lara don't seem to get along very well. But I think what we always try and make sure we're doing is separating the fact that, again, you have to have some gameplay in there. Lara's doing what she feels is right. She feels like she is doing what is for the greater good, and that if she doesn't do this, then humanity will suffer. And we do also try to paint some parallels sometimes. If you think about Rise of the Tomb Raider, the very beginning, Lara unravels the clues in order to find the prophet's tomb. She makes her way in a very respectful way. She only breaks like one wall. She's constantly, well, that's not a lot when it comes to Lara Croft. She breaks one wall, and then she is expressing a lot of, you know, awe. She's expressing a lot of reverence. She's, you know, looking at murals. She is looking at artifacts, and you can have all this backstory that goes along with it. So we're trying to take you on a journey as you're making your way through this tomb, because Lara does love this. She is a brilliant archaeologist. But then Trinity just comes in and blows the roof off, and that's what actually, you know, sets off the explosions. So yes, we want to have those big bombastic moments, but we also try and temper it by saying, when Lara makes her way in, she is learning about the tomb. She is looking at it like it is a thing of beauty.
And the good thing is that in Shadow of the Tomb Raider, she will start learning the consequences of her actions. So maybe she's going to get there.
I also recognize that this wasn't your actual question, but you opened up a big can of worms. So all right, now you get to ask your question.
No, actually, that was the question.
Oh, I thought you said before I start, I wanted to ask about Lara and the tombs. Oh no, that's okay.
No,
we'll make up a question real quick. Come on.
No, we're good. We got two more people to get to, Rich.
There.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
So I'm a huge fan of the game. I'm one of those like hardest difficulty playthrough persons. But I was really excited when I saw the first trailer for this, because there's a much less likely chance that I'm going to get stuck in a snowstorm. And
you don't know.
Yeah.
Oh.
That's not true. There's no snowstorm.
And I've noticed a couple times throughout this panel you've referenced this third game as the end of what you have called the Origin Trilogy. Do you have more games in the works?
Right now, we're focused on Shadow of the Tomb Raider.
Yeah. You knew that answer was coming.
All right, thank you very much.
Who keeps refilling these wall sconces? But seriously. My question would be, after the completion of this Origin one, maybe as a DLC to this one or in some future project, I'd love to play as the butler.
Wow.
I'd like to be locked in a challenge-free freezer.
I can say my other great line of, we're always listening to our community.
Listen good.
Rich is always
Hi.
message.
Oh, hi, I'm a big fan. I recently watched a video about a demo of the ray tracing technology that was using the Shadow of the Tomb Raider. So my question is that, is this technology going to be implemented in the console, and how big of a difference will it make?
So right now, the ray tracing technology will be a post-launch on the PC version. That's something that we worked on in partnership with NVIDIA. So it won't be in the console versions, but it will on the PC for people who really want to crank up that tech all the way. We do have a video that actually shows a lot of how the technology will influence it, but the ray tracing that we specifically worked on is, quite appropriately, we think, about the shadows. So that's really where you're going to see the most impact, is Lara's shadows in the environment, the way that they diffuse properly, things like that.
Okay. Thank you.
You're welcome.
You'll be our last question.
Hi, Lara. Thank you for all you do for all of us.
I love the game. Would you guys ever consider, as like a DLC or future game, doing VR? I know it would be probably really hard for Laura and probably very dizzy and nauseous, but would you ever consider trying VR for Laura?
Well, we actually did try VR for Lara. So in Rise of the Tomb Raider, in Blood Ties, you could play that on PSVR, and so I would suggest you go check it out.
That's good to know. Thank
Excellent.
you. And is it also possible to get all the Laura cosplays as a group photo with you guys?
I think I can't possibly say no to that now that you've asked it on microphone, but yes, after the panel, we will absolutely pose for cosplay photos, yeah.
Okay, so if you are a Lara out there, please come to the front when we're done, I guess. Thank you so much to everybody for coming out to the panel today. Thank you to Rich, to Mauro, to Dan for being on the panel. Let's give them a round of applause.
Thank you.
Very much looking
Thank
forward.
you.
Rich, when can we play? Just tell me that sweet release date one more time.
Yes, we're really excited. So Shadow of the Tomb Raider is coming out Xbox One X, PS4, and PC on September 14th. So we absolutely cannot wait for you guys to see Lara Croft's defining moment, and thank you for all the support that you've given us. It really means a lot.
Have a great weekend at PAX, everybody.